You're watching VNA News Bulletin. I'm Vinh Hằng from Hanoi with the major stories.
The 12th plenary of the Party Central Committee, 11th tenure, opens in Hanoi. Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement is forecast to bring positive impacts on Vietnamese economy. Bắc Giang Province hosts a festival to preserve Vietnamese ritual singing, Chầu Văn.
The 11th Party Central Committee convened its 12th plenary in Hanoi on October 5th under the chair of General Secretary Nguyễn Phú Trọng. Our reporter will bring you more details.
During the week-long event, discussions will be focused on socio-economic performance in 2015, socio-economic development plans for 2016, the personnel preparations for the 12th Party Central Committee, and elections for the 14th National Assembly and People's Councils at all levels for the 2016-2021 term. In his opening speech, General Secretary Nguyễn Phú Trọng stressed that the correct assessment of the national socio-economic situation from the beginning of this year until now and for the entire year will serve as an important premise to make accurate evaluation of the implementation of socio-economic development tasks and targets set by the 11th National Party Congress and the Party Central Committee's resolutions. The assessment will also serve as a foundation to build and successfully carry out socio-economic development plans for 2016, as well as socio-economic development targets for 2016-2020 and the 2010-2020 socio-economic development strategy. The party leader urged the meeting to pay attention to analyzing the impacts of abnormal regional and global developments on Vietnam's socio-economic affairs and forecasting developments in the remaining months of 2015 and 2016. Regarding personnel preparations for the next tenure of the Party Central Committee, at this plenary session, the Politburo is expected to submit to the Central Committee a report on personnel plans for the Politburo, the Secretariat, and key leaders. He also requested the committee to create a high consensus on the key issues which will decide the success of the elections of deputies for the 14th National Assembly and members of People's Councils at all levels for the 2016-2021 tenure, which are of great importance to the country.
The future Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreements, or TPP, would have positive impacts on Vietnamese economy besides several risks. A leading economist of the World Bank made the comments in Hanoi on October 5th.
At a meeting held to announce the East Asia and Pacific Economic Update, Sandeep Mahajan, lead economist of the World Bank office in Vietnam, assumed the TPP agreement will basically open up big opportunities for the country. He also noted that the pact will enable the Vietnamese economy to grow by 8 to 10% in 2020, while facilitating local enterprises access to large markets.
The impact on Vietnam is going to be positive. It's going to be a range. It could be anywhere from 8 to 10% of GDP by 2030, or it could be higher. And I think part of it obviously will depend on what goes into the TPP agreement. But a big part of it also is going to depend upon the reforms carried out in Vietnam as well.
According to the World Bank, Vietnam continues to enjoy optimistic growth this year. Vietnam's GDP grew by 6.3% in the first half of this year, the highest level recorded in the same period of the past 5 years. Notably, manufacturing industry and service were the two main drivers of the growth.
It's remarkable that while all the other countries in East Asia are slowing down, Vietnam, maybe with the exception of Philippines, are the only two countries which are bucking the trend and going the other direction and actually picking up in their growth rates.
The World Bank cut its growth forecast for developing economies in the East Asia Pacific region to 6.5% in 2015.
A number of domestic and foreign experts gathered at a recent seminar to scrutinize the reality of the coal-fired power sector and its subsequent impacts, with the intent to seek solutions to develop the sector sustainably. More in the following report. Vietnam has 19 operational coal-fired power plants and strives to increase the number to more than 50 by 2030, bringing the total coal-fired power production to 76,300 megawatts. As many as 162 million tons of coal are expected to be burnt to generate the projected electricity output, an 18.5 times surge compared to 2010. Coal consumption runs counter to the country's green growth strategy and its efforts to cope with climate change.
I think there are two really important solutions for reducing the health impacts, the thousands of premature deaths from coal. One of them is investing in cleaner solutions, especially renewable energy. So you have energy sources that actually don't emit this pollution. And the other solution is improving the emission limits for coal-fired power plants, so requiring much stricter standards.
Under the National Thermal Electricity Development Plan, coal-fired power accounts for 50% of the total electricity output by 2030. However, ashes generated from coal-fired power plants were estimated at 14.8 million tons a year post-2020, climbing to more than 29 million tons after 2030. The ashes have adverse impacts on public health, presenting a big challenge to energy developers. Export earnings from agro-forestry aquatic products in September were estimated at $2.15 billion, bringing the 9-month figure to $21.65 billion. The figure represents a 5% decrease from the same period last year. More details come up next.
The Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development reported export revenue from key farm produce stood at $10.29 billion, down 7.2%. Strong decreases were seen in coffee, 32%, rubber, 13.7%, and rice, 15.7%. In the reviewed period, Vietnam shipped 4.47 million tons of rice abroad, raking in $1.92 billion, down 10% in volume and 15.7% in value. China remains the biggest importer of rice from Vietnam, accounting for around 35% of the market share. By the end of the third quarter, Vietnam grossed $1.96 billion from selling 961,000 tons of coffee, respective declines of 32% and 31% year-on-year. Meanwhile, rubber exporters earned $1.06 billion from shipping 740,000 tons of products, up 6.6% in terms of volume, but down 13.7% in value. Notably, the pepper market is thriving with increasing export prices and global appetites. The sector earned $1.04 billion from shipping 110,000 tons of pepper overseas. Exports of key forestry products reached $5.03 billion, a year-on-year hike of 6.6%.
Vietnam fetched $84 million from exporting 235,000 tons of cassava and tapioca products in September, bringing the total exports volume to 3.27 million tons, worth $1.03 billion in 9 months, up more than 28% in volume and 24% in value.
The Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development said China remained the top importer of Vietnamese cassava, accounting for 89% of market shares. Cassava exports to Japan recorded the highest growth, up 72% in volume and 84% in value. Cassava posted the highest export growth among agricultural products for the past 9 months after export duties were cut down to zero as of September 5th. The Ministry of Finance said it would work together with relevant agencies to adjust export duties on cassava next year in line with domestic production and consumption so as to ensure benefits of the state, businesses and farmers.
Vietnam raked in $1.78 billion from shipping abroad 245,000 tons of cashew nuts in the first 9 months of this year. The figures were up 7.8% in volume and 20.6% in value year-on-year.
In September alone, the country exported about 30,000 tons of cashew nuts, pocketing $218 million. The figures make a stark contrast to other agroforestry aquatic products, whose total export turnover stood at $10.3 billion from January to September, representing a year-on-year decrease of 7.2%. The US, the Netherlands and China were the biggest importers of cashew nuts from Vietnam, making up 61.17% of the country's total export revenue. The Vietnam Cashew Association said the country targets 320,000 tons of cashew nut exports and $2.5 billion in revenue in 2015. Vietnam now has over 300,000 hectares of cashews in the southern province of Bình Phước, Bà Rịa Vũng Tàu, and Đồng Nai, Phú Yên and Bình Định provinces in the central region, and the Central Highlands province of Đắk Lắk.
Low-cost airline Vietjet Air has been missed out with the Best Asian Low-Cost Carrier title at the TTG Travel Awards 2015, making it the first Vietnamese airline to win the prestigious award.
The honor highlights Vietjet's achievements in providing top-quality services, the best network and schedules, and for being the most agent-friendly airline in terms of reservations and confirmations. The award also recognizes Vietjet Air's professional sales and marketing team that comes up with innovative ideas, exciting incentive programs, and groundbreaking services. The annual TTG Travel Awards have been organized by TTG Asia since 1989. The award winners are decided through votes from readers of TTG Travel Trade Publishing's prints and online titles such as TTG China and TTG India from May to July every year. These publications' readers are mainly travel agents, tour operators, hoteliers, and travelers. Vietjet recently won the Gold Award 2015 from the Pacific Asia Travel Association for its innovative and meaningful marketing campaigns, which have greatly inspired and contributed to tourism development in the Asia-Pacific region.
A festival is being held for the first time in the northern province of Bắc Giang with the aim of preserving the Vietnamese ritual singing Chầu Văn. Our reporters have the full story.
The three-day event aims to preserve the values of Chầu Văn singing in today's modern society, while increasing the community's awareness of the Mother Goddess worshipping belief. It also provides an opportunity for artists to perform the traditional ritual singing in a formal setting, as well as contributing to complete a dossier to be submitted to UNESCO to recognize Chầu Văn as intangible cultural heritage of the humanity. Originating in the late 19th century, Chầu Văn singing is a traditional folk art of northern Vietnam which combines trance singing and dancing. The highly rhythmic form of singing often accompanies Hầu Đồng, mediumship, during rituals to honor the Mother Goddess and connect to other gods. It is mostly performed at temples and pagodas. The music and poetry performed in the folk art are blended with a variety of rhythms, tempos, and pitches. The genre also adopts folk songs from the uplands and highlands of the three regions of the country. The main musical instrument used in the genre is đàn nguyệt, a moon-shaped lute.
And that's all we have for this bulletin. Thank you for tuning in and goodbye for now.